January in Colorado, so at 4 o'clock we start with the weather. We are expecting a pretty good-sized storm to roll in tomorrow, just over 24 hours from right now.
And we all want to compare it to the last one, which was a lot.
We don't want to compare it to, but we're going to have to.
But we have to. Before we know it, it's going to be here, and it could make for some really fun drives to and from work. So let's get right to Lauren Robinson for what we can expect.
Yeah, I think the Tuesday evening drive could be impacted. That'll be the beginning of the snow, but certainly Wednesday morning, look for that drive to be impacted. We'll be having a lot of snow on the ground at that point, and it'll be continuing through midday. So Wednesday morning, that's what you really want to watch for. In the meantime, we're dry and mild in Denver. We do have a good mix of sun and clouds out there, 42 degrees. It feels like 39 with those winds coming in from the northeast at around 5 miles per hour. But as we take a look at our HD Doppler radar, we have a lot of activity off to the west of Colorado. That's going to be pushing its way eastward right into the state as we go over the next couple of days. Some areas already seeing that snow. We're going to continue to monitor that snow throughout the rest of the afternoon and evening in portions of the high country western slope and specifically the southwestern corner of the state. That's where we're going to get quite a bit of snowfall this evening. So we have separate winter weather alerts there. We have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings for the southeastern corner of the state that are in effect now through overnight. And then the rest of the state will see those advisories go into effect midday Tuesday through midday Wednesday, where we're going to see a lot of snowfall, those strong winds, as we know that creates that blowing snow and hazardous travel. So we will continue to see mild and dry weather for the rest of your MLK Day tonight, but tomorrow middays when that snow is going to move in, and that's not the last of it. I have several more chances for snow throughout my 7-day forecast, so I'll have those details for you just ahead.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those pay attention storms, and everyone will be keeping an eye on things. Keep us posted, and we'll get back to you in just a bit. Thanks, Lauren.
We haven't any time really since the last round, but check out this video from Wolf Creek Ski Resort. See, this is the upside of all this. They've received 10 inches of snow in the last 24 hours, 24 in the last 2 days. So those that live their lives on a board or skis, they're living their best lives.
Is this you boarding or did you shoot this?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Right. I got I got some patch of land I want to sell you too, Tom Green. It's super cheap. It's a deal.
Well, it's a Monday, but a lot of people are having a very different Monday today. Many people around the country celebrating and honoring the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
And that includes thousands of people here in Colorado every single year. Today, Denver marked its 38th Annual Marade. It is one of the largest events to celebrate the civil rights icon in the country. The march travels from the Martin Luther King Memorial in City Park to the amphitheater at Civic Center Park. It is meant to celebrate the victories achieved in combating injustices from the past and march peacefully to confront injustices in the future. Both principles preached by the late Dr. King.
Today we honor him with special speeches and monuments. But let us do more. Let all Americans of every race and creed and color work together to build this blessed land a shining city of brotherhood, justice, and harmony.
Events across the city continue tonight. Brother Jeff's Cultural Center is hosting a free dinner right now. And tonight at the National Western Stock Show, the MLK Junior Heritage Rodeo kicks off at 6, celebrating Black Western culture. On this MLK Day, President Biden says we face another inflection point in history. He says as the country determines what it will look like in the future, Dr. King's legacy propels it forward. And he addressed why we should talk about the past.
The idea that we're supposed to remain silent on the abuses of the past, as if they didn't occur, that's not being woke. That's being honest. That's talking about history.
Also today, another crowd did gather at the MLK Memorial on the National Mall in Washington to remember the man and his message at a wreath-laying event. Those in attendance heard musical performances as well as speeches from several people, including religious leaders.
Every time I come here, I derive inspiration. And I hope that you do, and as children and generations yet unborn come here. Our society has a lot to do for us to get to that day when peace and justice, equality and freedom exist for all humankind.
Martin Luther King III was joined by the American ambassador to the United Nations, as well as other religious leaders as well. And on this MLK Day comes some sad news about a very popular Denver black-owned business. Wagwan Brewing in the Santa Fe Arts District is going to be closing at the end of the month.
The Jamaican-themed brewery just opened its doors in June of 2021. They're going to pour their last pint on January 31st. 9 News reporter Steve Steger talked to the owners this afternoon and really what they've been able to accomplish in 18 months' time. That's not a lot.
Matter of fact, on the last MLK Day, they said they were brewing their Black History Month beer that they put on tap in 2022. They say they have made craft beer much more accessible and a welcoming place to people in the black community. But in the end, a lack of funding and inflation are making it tough to keep their business afloat. In Jamaican patois, the phrase wagwan means "what's going on?" A question tough to answer for this couple this week.
I think it's something that we've been trying to mentally and emotionally prepare for a couple of months.
Harsha Mirage and her husband Jesse Brown just announced that they will close Wagwan Brewing at the end of the month, another victim of a tough economy.
With inflation, with cost of goods rising, with the overhead that we have, it's just not really possible right now.
Grain, hops, aluminum cans, everything you need for beer is getting more expensive. Costs tough to foot for a brewery that's already struggled to get funding.
Unfortunately, we've been denied by a lot of the larger banks and larger institutions.
There's very little support for black businesses on the funding front, and that's really, money's the gasoline of a business. You got to have it to make it. It's true. So, there's a lot of other businesses in our position. We're not alone in this.
Wagwan is one of only a handful of black-owned breweries in Colorado and in the country.
I feel like there's already a huge barrier to entry with people of color getting into the brewing industry. So for us to kind of have this impact on the community, clearly it's been an impactful brewery and an impactful space. So that hurts.
Mirage and Brown say they measure their success in the welcoming place they've created, a brewery that introduced new communities to beer.
The outpouring of support and kind words has been just super emotional and super overwhelming for both of us.
They hope that this is just the close of a chapter, not the end of their story.
One of the beautiful things about being a person of color, people of color, is there's no shortage of disappointment. So it's all about finding the positivity and the happiness in that. So, we'll adapt and overcome.
So the couple is hoping to keep their brand going. Their beer will be on tap at a few different places in town until they can figure out what's next. They say they're open for any ideas for new spaces, new funding, things that they may not have thought of yet. But they've brought so much to the craft beer space, and it's one of those places where, like, the nerds in craft beer.
Yeah.
We hear about Wagwan all the time. We want to go check it out. I've been there a few times. Their beer's fantastic, and it was a big surprise to see that they're closing.
As our unofficial brewery and craft brewing editor.
I've been lobbying for that position for a long time.
Two things I want to ask you about. One is you talk about the flavors, the unique flavors that they present, because you think of craft brewing going in a lot of different directions, but Wagwan had its own palette.
Yeah, because the thing is, craft beer is a lot of the same styles. IPAs, hazy IPAs, basically lagers. They put a lot of different spices that represented Jamaican culture in their beer. And it's just something you can't find in other places. And that's part of the reason why they want to keep that alive. They also want to keep a space alive. They talk about that space being such a welcoming place for people.
But it is a tough business. I mean, for anyone. I mean, it's because people get into it out of passion, and then when it comes down to the brass tacks of making money or making rent, making paychecks, it gets hard.
Especially nowadays, as things keep going up in cost. We've seen CO2 has been hard to come by for a lot of brewers. That was a big deal for a long time. The price of grain, the price of hops, just all the ingredients that go into beer. Aluminum cans are really tough to come by now.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you're going to distribute, it gets more and more expensive to distribute. You need a lot of people inside your tap room, which is just something they say they get a lot, but they just weren't getting enough of. And here we are.
When he said we're used to disappointment, that's just really, that gets right to the point.
It was a gut punch. When
you
he
hope
said
that sometime they get lifted up now.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody sees this and says, oh, wait a minute.
They're certainly hoping for that. They're hoping that someone out there has thought of something that they haven't thought of. They've been at the drawing board for quite a long time trying to figure out how to make this work. So
See what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, guys.
Well, one of the prospective coaching candidates for the Broncos is now off the board. It was about an hour ago that Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh tweeted that his heart is in Michigan. Of course, that means he's staying in Ann Arbor. And another piece of the puzzle that is the Broncos coaching search could be moving tonight as well. The last game of our super wild card weekend has Dallas and Tampa Bay tonight, and Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn could be on vacation or getting ready for San Francisco tomorrow, depending on how his defense does tonight against Tom Brady. The Broncos are scheduled to interview Quinn later this week either way. Of course, you have to remember he also interviewed for this same job last year.